Thanks very much for listening in. This is Stephen Worrall, and I'm at home. And as a result, I'd like to acknowledge the Camaragal people and extend my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, for their ongoing connection with and their ongoing custodianship of this wonderful, wonderful land that I have the privilege of living and working on. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by John Paul Janke, otherwise known as JP, who is the co-chair of the NAIDOC committee. And NAIDOC Week is this week. It celebrates the history, the culture, and the achievements of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. Typically, it's held in July, but it was moved to this week to acknowledge the safety implications of dealing with the pandemic. And it's a great opportunity to invite all Australians to celebrate the culture and history of Australia, which, as we know, goes back over thousands of generations. And so, JP, really appreciate your time.
Yeah, look, thanks, Stevens, for the opportunity to yarn this morning. And happy NAIDOC Week to all your viewers.
The theme this year always was, always will be, JP. Maybe explain a little of the context of how that theme was selected.
Yeah, it's about a year ago that the National NAIDOC Committee gets together and discusses the theme. And we felt with the plans that were being put in place for the 250th anniversary of the endeavour, that we needed a strong statement to actually acknowledge the 65,000 year history of Aboriginal Australia. The Aboriginal people were the first footprints on this country,
yes,
the first astronomers, the first bakers, the first engineers, the first diplomats. The language is the first language of this country. So we wanted to say that always was and always will be part of this history of this country.
And there's so much that we can all be proud of over those thousands of generations of culture. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Now, Stephen, a question for you. We've had to move NAIDOC Week from July to November, as you said at the start, in order to keep our communities safe from COVID-19. And there's still lots of NAIDOC events happening around the nation, but many of them have moved online and are now in the digital space. Can you share more about what you're seeing communities do and how they're embracing new technologies to really stay connected?
Yeah, you bet. It's definitely been a characteristic of the last 7 or 8 months as we've dealt with the pandemic, JP, that digital technology, whether it's being able to have video conferences or the many other ways in which technology is contributing, has helped Australia, but also many countries around the world to navigate through this period. But here locally, we're delighted to be working with the NAIDOC committee and a range of other partners, including Telstra, MIC in digital, and IDX, on the National NAIDOC Minecraft Education Challenge, which is a wonderful example of bringing together the world's oldest culture with some of the world's greatest and latest in technology. And across several hundred schools, there's a couple of thousand challenges. Over 3 weeks, we're working with those schools to ask kids in years 3 to 8 to think about how we could redesign and imagine more sustainable cities in 2030, leveraging Indigenous culture, Indigenous engineering, Indigenous arts, and indeed this world's oldest culture that we've talked about, to tap into thinking about how we might reimagine a better future for Australia. At the same time, JP, we're also across Microsoft, and the team here will know that we've just recently formed the Indigenous Employee Resource Group at Microsoft, which is bringing together networks of Microsofties around the world, working with First Nations peoples in every part of the globe. And so, JP, this is a massive week. It's a really important opportunity for all Australians to jump in and celebrate our shared history and culture. How would you encourage us all to acknowledge this really important week?
I encourage people to just jump online and embrace First Nations culture, First Nations voices, and First Nations stories through NAIDOC Week, but every day of the year. And just hearing you say Aboriginal culture in the same sentence as the world technology reshapes that narrative. And I think if we can do that as a nation, the future is endless. But it's taking back the narrative and saying, actually, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture, history, and lifestyles and language is something that all Australians should celebrate, because we have the oldest continuous culture on the planet right here.
So well said. A massive thank you from Microsoft, from me personally, but from Microsoft to you for all that you do and for helping us play our role in helping to raise awareness and, of course, to celebrate this really important week. So look forward to seeing you again soon. Good on you, JP.